go. Real talk. What's up, everybody? It's Kenny King's Fat Ass, as always, with my boy Dustin Downham. How you doing, Raider Way? What's good today?
Doing better than you, apparently.
We're gonna start this show off with a bang. It's been a good day,
left and right.
It's been a day, hasn't it? It's been a great day. Had a nice little Twitter beef that I deleted because I'm better than that.
That wasn't even a Twitter beef. That was like Twitter slices of salami or some shit. Like, it wasn't even a full-fledged beef. It was like 6 tweets long.
That guy really wanted the beef. Like, I mean, literally, like every other thing was talking about sucking beef. And so, look, whatever you do, bud, just find yourself and be happy with whoever you are and whoever you end up with. That said, we got football to talk about. Raiders have started camp. They're 10 days in. Pads are on. We're starting to see some things. The title of this show is It's Getting Chippy, and we got to address that right now because it started out as, them talking about, Tashawn said the got chippy, and then there was a article that went out with Dove Kleeman saying that franchise quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo and star pass rusher Max Crosby got into it, which Tashawn didn't say. He said it got chippy, and Crosby was forced to take a lap afterwards. Well, good old Vinny Bonsignore cleared things up. With all due respect, this did not happen. Max ran a lap for jumping off sides, which Jimmy induced with the hard count. Jimmy gave Max some playful shit for getting into it in the jump, and there was no scuffle. That's it.
Do we really think Max is going to put hands on Jimmy? Nobody's going to put hands on Jimmy.
I knew from the moment that Tashawn said it got chippy, I knew that it was just talking. I knew it was talking back and forth. I know that Max isn't a fucking idiot, and Max isn't going to go out there and be like, "Oh, let me just fight the quarterback." Like, nobody does that shit. And so the fact that people look.
We all wanted to run with it. Let's be honest. We all wanted to run with the narrative.
Oh, yeah. We wanted to, but we know that it's not true. We know that it's not something that's going to happen. Max isn't dumb enough to do that. And also, if Max and Jimmy actually got into a fight, Max would be running a lot more than a lap. Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't a Draymond Jordan Poole situation where, Jordan Poole's expendable and Max is going to go on a year. I shouldn't say that because I got people who really love Jordan Poole and I don't want to.
Yeah, don't piss off your Warriors fans.
Not even my Warriors fans, just one Warriors fan in particular I don't want to piss off because she will get mad. And that won't be good. So we're not going to go on a media tour. I'm not going to go on a media tour talking about that. What we will go on a media tour talking about is the fact that Jimmy's been getting out there and he's been talking shit. And, you've got a quarterback. Look, I love Derek. Derek's awesome. But you got a quarterback who's going out there, who's running his mouth, who's talking shit, Only Draymond. I think Max would hit a role player if not
like a special teamer.
Yeah, like not in the face without it, not like to the extent of Bill Romanowski where he's going to break a face or something like that. But, he might throw a punch in practice. We saw Travis Kelce do it, Twice.
In one practice.
It happens. Shout out Raider Tim. Raider Tim's always a friend of the pod. He's always listening to us. Good guy. Make sure you guys give him a follow. He's a good dude. Came out to the tailgate a couple times. I'm not going to post Raider Room's next if he says anything else about my guy Draymond, I will put him on timeout because I love Draymond. But getting back into it, Jimmy's been getting after it and talking shit in the locker room, talking shit in the weight room, talking shit on the field. And you hear guys talking about things feel different this year. What's your take on that?
No, I think you've got a different energy. I mean, everybody's been so used to Derek. He gets out there and I'm sure he jabs his own little certain ways, but it's probably a different level of shit talking than these guys are used to. You figure Max has been there his whole tenure with the Raiders has been with Derek. So this is his first new quarterback that's out there, maybe a little bit mouthy. He likes messing with the guys and this and that. I think it's good for him. Give them that little bit of edge that they maybe didn't have before. And like you said, everybody's been saying there's a noticeable shift in how things are done. I can't remember exactly who said it. It might have been Vinny. He said there's a noticeable crispness that these guys get in and out of the huddle. Just a general command of things. And I think you can attribute that to Jimmy being in McDaniel's system before, even though it was 7 years ago or whatever. I think that familiarity is what's giving him that, okay, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to lead this offense. And even Chandler Jones says the offense seems more efficient and what did he say? There was a specific word he said, but I can't remember exactly. More successful this season.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest thing is you have Jimmy who was in that system. And here's the thing, even though it was 7 years ago, you still remember what it was like playing for that coach and what the expectations were. I can go back to 20 years ago when I was in college, and I can still tell you exactly what my coaches expected of me. I can go back to high school and tell you what my coaches expected of me. I can go back to Pop Warner and tell you what my coaches expected. That never gets out of your head. That always stays ingrained inside your head, and you keep that. So as a Raider fan, I like to see that. You had that with Rich Gannon, like you said. Derek probably talked a little different shit. We know everybody talks a little bit, right? I talk to Sean Merriman all the time, and he tells me that Phillip Rivers was the most polite shit talker. He would talk all this shit, but wouldn't cuss. And he said it just gets under your skin because you're like, dude, like, shut up.
Cussing. Start cussing or something.
But we as Raider fans, we would see it because he's just always John, and it's annoying. And it gets to the point where it's like they get in your head. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the fact that there's some dogs out there. You got a dog at quarterback. Obviously, Jimmy's not the guy that everybody wanted, but he's the guy that we got. And I'm going to ride with him. And until he's not under center, that's our quarterback. If Aiden comes in, then Aiden comes in. And I'm liking what I'm hearing about Aiden. Talk about Aiden a little bit and what you're hearing about Aiden out of camp.
Well, I know when they talked to Renfro the other day, they're saying that his accuracy, he said he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks that he's ever caught a ball from. He's been knocking off 20-yard completions downfield to Jacoby Meyer, whoever he's running with. It sounds like he's got a really crisp ball. So and he gets it out. What Hondo was saying is he may hold it a little too long. He said he's looking at holding it about 3 seconds. Hondo says it's got to be out in like 2.5. Yeah. So he's got a little bit of work there to get his ball out a little bit faster, but it sounds like everything has been accurate and on the spot. You've seen a couple videos with him tossing one down. I think it was Jacoby Meyer. He put it right over the top of him, laid out for it, and just landed right in the end zone. So, and again, that's not against any kind of coverage. They're in shorts at that point, but still, it's nice interesting to hear.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear. It's nice to see. You like to see some videos out of camp. You like to see some pictures out of camp. We haven't seen much, through the OTAs. It's been very, very, very much under wraps, which is a big change from before. With Gruden, we had Hard Knocks. We had a lot of videos. There was, a little bit more leniency with what's shown. And now you're kind of seeing the McDaniels way. I'm not going to say the Patriot way because it's not the Patriot way. It's the McDaniels way, and because he did the same thing in Denver. And so you're seeing a little bit, but you're not seeing enough. And I kind of like it. You don't see what's behind the curtain, and they don't show a lot in preseason. But what I do want to see in preseason is I would like to see Jimmy out there under center a couple of times just to get that game scenario, get that game feel, and see these young guys get out there. I don't think we need to see Devontae at all. I don't think we need to see much of Michael Mayer, to be honest with you. I think that,
he's as advertised, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know that he needs to prove a whole lot at this point.
No, I don't. I think with the way that Hunter's been playing in camp, I don't think we need to see Hunter Renfrow in preseason, to be honest with you.
I'm excited to see Trey Tucker.
I'm excited to see Tucker. I want to see these young guys. I want to see who our 4, 5, and 6 are going to be. I'm not worried about the 1, 2, 3. We know who 1, 2, 3 is. Who's going to take that 4, 5, 6? Who's going to be that TE2, the TE3? Personally, I think it's probably going to be Hooper and Horsted. We see, OJ Howard's out already. And people got mad at me because I said Mayer must be balling in practice because I thought that Mayer was going to get cut. Like I'm a fucking idiot.
Because they're just going to outright cut their second round pick this year.
Yeah, exactly.
That should have gone in the first.
Yeah, seriously. So those are the things that I look at as we turn and shift focus. Still staying on offense, but looking now in the offensive backfield. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from Zamir White so far?
Everything I've been hearing that he's just bulldozing everybody. He's put on a little bit of weight and he's still as explosive as he was last year. So if you can pump up the weight and still maintain your speed and agility and everything, then he may have a legit shot to, assuming Josh doesn't come back. I read somewhere that there may be some more tweaks that they're trying to work out with the contract situation with Josh to try and get him in. But if Josh doesn't show, Zamir's kind of next man up, wouldn't you think? You've got Abdullah and Bolden. Yeah. But those guys, I feel like Abdullah is in on passing downs. He's kind of that scat back, he's going to catch it out of the backfield and everything. But Bolden, he's an up the gut runner, But Zamir, he can bounce it out. He can go up the gut. I think he works a little bit better outside of the tackles than inside. But that's just on the limited basis that we've seen him. He's had some good in between the tackles runs, but I like to see him bounce it out on the edge if he can get out.
Yeah. One thing that stands out to me is, like you said, he bulked up and, he looks like he's ready to play pro football. Last year, he didn't look ready to play pro football. He had flashes where he was looking good, but, he was still kind of had that quote unquote baby weight. And just molded that, right? And molded that into an NFL type running back style or body type. Looking at the Josh Jacobs situation, one of the things I liked was Dave Ziegler's comments, which pretty much alluded to, they want to get, something done this year. And based off of the performance this year, this is my takeaway from it, was based off the performance this year, he could potentially have a multi-year deal after that. Because obviously they can't give him a multi-year deal this year. But if you give him a little bit more money this year, give him some incentives, and then at the end of the season, you say, okay, well let's do this. Let's get a multi-year deal done, and keep Josh in silver and black, hopefully for the rest of his career.
Yeah, if you're committed to a guy like Josh, then you need to make it known. Yeah, basically, I think I saw it was Ziegler on whatever the show is called that they put out, that the Raiders
Behind
put
the
out.
Shield, I believe.
Yeah, Behind the Shield. He said it was basically a matter of they ran out of time to find that common ground. He goes, we were headed in the right direction, but we just kind of ran out of time. In my head, I'm going, you guys had a lot of time. Yeah. How long did you wait? How did you not take it seriously? Did you didn't think he wasn't actually going to sign it? What was the deal there? Yeah. But he's, from everything that Ziegler was saying, and of course he's not going to say, oh yeah, we're we're having issues or anything like
Right.
that. He's just going to say that they ran out of time and they were close.
Yeah.
So I think if they're going to stick with Josh, then they need to figure out a way to get him in camp and basically assure him a contract this coming free agency period.
Absolutely. And I think that's got to be the focus, right? Now, as we shift to gears to the defensive side of the ball, Max is Max, and Max is a
Max
beast.
is going to max.
Yeah, Max is going to max. Max has been a beast. You've got Chandler Jones, who's looking lean and mean and looks completely transformed than what he did last season. I think towards the end of the season last year is where he started to come around. But he looks ready to go. I think he understands that he didn't have a good season last year. He understands that he needed to step it up. He's getting paid this kind of money to be here, to be, a pass rusher. I expect a big season out of Chandler Jones. Around the tackles, there's some question marks. I was on a podcast yesterday talking about Neil Farrell Jr. And, he's a guy that I think could be on the cusp of not being on this team, because he wasn't at practice. He's been missing practices, whatever it is, little injuries or whatnot. You're not hearing a lot about him in practice. You're not hearing a lot coming out of camp. And then you've got Byron Young, who the Raiders drafted early. And you've got some guys that are stepping up. What are your thoughts on Neil Farrell and the potential of him not being on this team?
I think it's interesting because I'm sitting here looking at the roster and looking at the sizes of these defensive tackles that they've got, and he's by far the heaviest one on the team, listed at 325. Everybody else is in the high 290s, low 300s. So he's a gap filler, obviously.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. John Jenkins is 327. So, okay. You've got two guys that are 325 plus. But with Farrell missing practices, he's going into his second year. Yeah, it's the same system, but your role might be different based on who's around you. What's up, Serge? So we got, you've got Farrell and Jenkins right there at 325. And with Byron Young being there as well, I think Byron he's got a wider range of what he can do. He's very aggressive. You see him come out of Alabama, just tearing up the inside offensive line. And if I've got to lean one way or the other, it's tough, man. Because they're very different. Because Young is sitting at 292 and fast. He's a little more violent, I think, than from the limited time that I've seen Farrell play in Graham's defense. So I'm curious to see which one of them gets back to practice first and starts making the impression. So I think that's what's going to come down to is who can make a bigger impression in the shortest amount of time.
And I think the clock is ticking on Farrell. And the reason why I also think that is, remember last year he was a healthy scratch a lot, and we found out that it was not due to his ability on the field. It was more of his inability to mature. There was a lot of issues there where he was showing up late to meetings. He wasn't taking things seriously. I likened him to an Eddie Vanderdoes where, it's just, has the ability, just didn't really put it together, doesn't really care, and I'd like for him to prove me wrong there. But we'll see. A position group that I'm also really excited about is the defensive backfield. You look at, the addition of Marcus Peters. You've got Jacorian Bennett, who I know our guy Raider Room is very high on.
Starter. I'm sorry, he's got to be a day one starter.
He's got to be. But this defensive backfield, I'm excited about. You've got some guys out there that can play. You've got some guys that can get after it. I think Trayvon Merrick has a big jump this year. I think Nate Hobbs has a big jump because, and you got Chris Smith coming in. I'm excited about him. Who are some guys that you're excited about on this defense?
Well, one guy that I've been hyping since last season is Polamalu. I think he's going to have a really good season. I know you're laughing, but I had a hot take today. I think he finishes the season with 3 or more interceptions because he seems like he's been getting after it in practice. He's picked off Jimmy twice. Matter of fact, today the defense had, I think, 5+ interceptions, 2 of them off of Jimmy, and then 3 off of Hoyer and O'Connell. So this is an interesting shift that we're seeing from this defensive backfield, where they're not afraid to go get the ball. Yeah. And I saw a tweet come out. I think it might have been from Mike Dixon. Peters dropped an interception, immediately drops to the ground, 10 push-ups. So there's a level of accountability that I don't think was there before. You've got vets like Peters coming in and instilling this. Okay, see Seawood's old saying: "See ball, get ball."
See ball, get ball.
So I'm really high on Polamalu switching between safety and linebacker. It seems like he's been kind of fluid between those two positions. And then in the 88 snaps that he played last season, you saw him playing in the box a lot.
Yes.
So
Polamalu is a guy. Yeah, I'm excited about him going against Kelsey. I think that he's a guy that can probably go out there and shut down Kelsey, and that's what we need.
Wow, that's pretty lofty. Because Polamalu is only 205 pounds, dude. Kelsey's big.
Hey, he's Samoan though.
He's got that heart.
He's got that heart. Choo! Come on now.
Now, see, I'm also pumped about Marcus Epps too, though. There's a lot to be excited about in this backfield. I'm looking at the entire roster, and there's a bunch of guys on here that I'm excited about. Shelley, Hobbs, obviously, David Long, Marcus Peters, Amik. He's in the mix. So it's going to be really hard to slim this roster down come cut time and figure out who your defensive backs are going to be.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is going into this offseason, right? Our biggest question mark was the DBs. It's like what are the DBs going to look like? And now we say, okay, we've got some depth here. We've got some guys that can play. We're gonna have to make some some questionable cuts, but that's a good problem to have. I think the biggest question mark now is that linebacking core. You look at the linebackers, and I'm not 100% sold on this linebacking core. Now, the reason why I'm not so down on the defense as a whole, because the defensive line is solid, the defensive backfield is solid. If the defensive line can get after it with Max and Tyree and Chandler and and Isaac Cush, I called him Isaac Cush because he's Allison Kutch's husband. We know he's Mr. Kutch. So
Mr. Kutch, yeah.
So you get those guys and get after it. You get some, you've got Jerry Tillery who can rush the quarterback. You're going to have a rotation at defensive tackle. I think that our DBs and our defensive linemen are going to be the guys that are going to be instrumental to this linebacking core being decent. And so that's where we're going to really need to see some help there. Shout out Joey, friend of the podcast too. Merrick, he thinks Merrick's going to have a breakout season, be a top 7 safety. That is a lofty hot take. Let's mark it down. Let's write it down. I like it. I mean, if we have a top 7 safety, that's beautiful. And speaking of top 7s, we had 3 guys in the top 20. The first time in I don't know how long. I don't think it's ever been since I was going to say I don't know about ever.
Yeah.
You had Max, Tay, and Josh in the top 20. Like, break it down for people that don't understand the top 100, what that means for this team.
So the top 100, for everybody that may not understand it, as well as a lot of other Raiders fans and football fans in general, these are guys that are voted on around the league by the players. So these guys are the ones that are, and they're writing in their names, saying this is a guy that he's one of the top 100 players in the league, without a doubt. So to have 3 of these guys come up in the top 20, I still think Tay and Max, well, actually, I think all 3 of them were a little low. I think all 3 of them should have scraped into the top 10, 15 range. I could be being a little biased, but I think Tay is still in the top 10. Yeah. But, for these three guys to be voted into the top 100, having not made the playoffs last year, having a pretty rocky season, let's just put it that way, but their individual performances were enough to warrant the league putting themselves on notice, basically saying, okay, we got to watch out for these three guys.
Yeah. I think, you hit the nail on the head with Tay. I mean, Tay is still, in my opinion, the best receiver in the league until he's dethroned. And look, I know the Madden, it was a 98 on Madden. They had to, they didn't want to give him the gold cleats this year. I get it. He'll be a 99 by midseason.
It's all right.
He'll probably be a 99 by week 2.
Uniform anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But it's you seeing that. You look at Max. Max is a guy who's going to come out there, and I believe, and I'm not saying this as a Raider fan. I'm saying this as somebody who has watched Max, who has talked to Max, who has studied Max's game, who's seen Max's work ethic. I strongly and firmly believe that Max will be Defensive Player of the Year this season. I think that's his goal. That's his, what he's striving for. And I believe that Max will be Defensive Player of the Year this season.
I mean, I think at this point, this is probably the best shot that he's had since he's been on the team. You've got Chandler across from you, second year in Graham's system. He's got what seems to be some help in the defensive back section. His whole tenure with the Raiders has been the defensive backfield's been a little fluid. Things haven't been maybe up to par, but with those little pieces like that, but on his individual performance alone, I mean, I think he should have had it last season or the season before. I don't think he had any business losing to Nick Bosa. What was that, 2 years ago?
Smaller Bear. Well, that was so his rookie year, he lost the Defensive Rookie of the Year to Nick. Okay. And then I believe last year, did Nick win? I believe it was either Nick or JJ that won. I'm drawing a blank right now.
I think TJ won last year.
Yeah, TJ. Sorry, not TJ. JJ.
Yeah, TJ won it last year. It was the year before that where Max led the league in pressures and tackles for loss and all these other statistical categories except for sacks. And apparently you just need to be the sack leader to win Defensive Player of the Year.
And with those guys, I really feel that Max can be the sack leader this season. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table this year. I'm excited to see what this team does. It's nice that football is back. We had the Hall of Fame game last night. Lights went out. That was kind of weird.
A-Rod sitting in the dark.
A-Rod just enjoying the dark again.
He's like, everyone else is freaking out. I love it.
And he's like, I did a retreat. I did a retreat like this. Give me some ayahuasca. We're good.
I do my best thinking in the dark.
Seriously. We got Space B saying wide receiver 1, RB1, DE1, top 5, LT. We have a foundation. I agree. I agree.
A lot of pieces.
And then the right tackle, Jermaine Illuminor was a guy that was slated to be in. And I just see a report from Vinny and from Vic that Thayer Munford's making a push. And that, and Thayer Munford's a big boy. That's a big dude. So there's competition. I'm excited about that. You got guys that are competing. It's not a situation like, hey, I'm the starter. I got this job. And it's like, no, I'm going to come in here and take that job.
No, and that's what you want. You want that competition from top to bottom.
You want guys playing as hard as they can, playing their asses off, getting after it.
Every down.
So getting into that, we're about to head out of here. I'm going to leave you guys.
I got